have a bad back. I have arthritis. When I was 9 years old, I had a heart attack.
I'm currently taking 5 drugs I take daily, uh, of which I had to forego for this interview, where I'd probably be sleeping.
The hardest point for me was last fall going in the hospital and hearing someone behind a desk saying she's a charity case. And it broke my heart. When I was a teenager, my parents, my mom was the homemaker, my dad was the breadwinner. There were 7 of us kids, so money was tight for them. And my parents' belief was, you're old enough, we'll supply your needs, you supply your wants.
My last job I had was for Yellow Checker Cab. I was driving a cab, and it doesn't get much easier than that. I was making great money, sitting in a cab all day, driving a cab. Just woke up out of the blue one day, and couldn't even get out of bed.
And from the time I was 13 till the end of the summer of 72, I spent my summers in Chicago as a live-in babysitter, and I made $25 a week. And that to me was the start of independence. And, you know, I've always had a job as I went on in life, but now here I am, early 50s, not able to get a job, down on my luck, having to stay with friends, no money. What do you do?
I think a lot of people don't necessarily know what poverty looks like. But if we don't dig beneath the surface, if we don't talk to people, we don't necessarily see how they are struggling with poverty.
I have a bad back. I have sciatic nerve. I have arthritis. I have bone spur. I had carpal tunnel. When I was 9 years old, I had a heart attack, and that just had knocked me back from working. And so if I go to work, I can't stay long. My health is very bad.
So for about a week or two, I called in every day telling them I was just sick and couldn't come to work because I couldn't even sit up. You would think, okay, bad pain, he can sit in a cab. I couldn't do this, and this went on and on. So eventually, you know, I lost my job, and that was about the last straw, because that summer I went down with this ailment and was down till roughly November with it, on and off.
We see a lot of people who aren't able to have good nutrition because they're not able to afford the food that they need. And so that's, you know, and I think it's very widespread in the city of Champaign, and I think a lot of people don't necessarily see it.
Having grown up here myself, was not really even aware that the kind of need exists that we have here until I was involved with Salt and Light. It's one of those things, our need is very hidden. We don't have the type of poverty that you could just see driving around town. Our poverty is usually located in places where if you don't live there, you don't see it. There are no businesses there. It's not necessarily a main thoroughfare that you just drive through.
Low-income neighborhoods, older neighborhoods. In the city of Champaign, many of those neighborhoods tend to be in the northern part or the northeastern part of our community. You'll see higher concentrations of households that have lower incomes.
I lost my job, and then I started having health problems. I'd had asthma for years, but it just intensified, and I found out that I had COPD. I'd lost my unemployment, and then I couldn't afford all my rent where I lived at previously, so I had to move in with friends in January.
In the middle of my landlord's living room here is basically everything I own. That I haven't eaten. My life's been so unstable the last couple years from here to there. I haven't even took the pleasure of having anyone unpack it for me or do anything with it. It's just set right up there ready to go to the next place, probably the Times Center.
I used to work, but now since I can't work, and that's what led me to come to Township. And it has been a good help to me too. When they dropped that 212 down to 100, oh yes, it just put a big strain on me. It hurted me. But yet, with the housing authority helping me on my rent, Township come in and help me pay the other part of my rent.
I don't live in a housing authority. I'm on the waiting list. But even then, if I get called to go and look at a place, what I get monthly is not going to cover my utilities. So I'm going to be staying with my friends for a while, it looks like.
I'm very scared. I'm very worried, on edge lately because of the situation. I live with a good landlady, but you can only do so much, and for $100 a month, I don't think that's going to be acceptable. Whether she likes me or not, she's probably going to have to kick me out of the house.
We have housing programs and affordable housing programs where we try to help families who don't have resources to access safe and adequate housing to essentially afford better housing. The City Council also allocates 15% of our Community Development Block Grant Fund annually to social service agencies that do in fact offer services and programs to low-income families.
I've been very disappointed with observing the City Council of the City of Champaign and just the juxtaposition of dealing with, the downtown continued development at the same time that many of us advocates have been asking for additional funding for the City of Champaign Township office, which is, a very important safety net in this community for people. And I feel like the City of Champaign tends to prioritize bricks and mortar and development schemes that benefit, the wealthy or the business class, while at the same time ignoring or not addressing the human need and human services.
What they can do is help provide more shelter for the homeless, help to provide food, and help people to pay, bills and stuff. That's what I think Champaign can do.
We have seen that there are a number of neighborhoods here in our city where there's a high proportion of low-income families and families impacted by poverty. And our role is to really make sure that all the resources across the community are being used wisely, that we don't take a stovepipe approach where it's just our money that we look at, but we're actually looking at, can our money in partnership with other social service agencies and federal money raised by social service organizations and funding organizations, and make sure that we're allocating those resources to have the greatest impact.
The income levels, are lower than they should be. There's a lot of people uninsured, so they don't have access to health care. There's a lot of people with Medicaid who also don't have access to health care because unfortunately our healthcare providers in this community discriminate against Medicaid beneficiaries.
the hardest point for me was last fall going in the hospital because I was having difficulty breathing and hearing someone behind a desk, and you know they're talking about you, saying she's a charity case. And that's the first time I'd ever heard me being referred to as a charity case. And it broke my heart. And I didn't have nerve enough to tell this girl, I'm not a charity case, I'm a human being just like you are. But if I ever hear it again, that's exactly what I was saying. I didn't get here because I wanted to be here. It's just how things turned out.